Respect has a price tag, and everyone is quietly running the numbers. We pretend we value character and integrity above all else, but the data on our behavior tells a different story. Esteemed philosophers and hardened economists are locked in a furious debate over this, because both sides have a point, and both have consequences that define our society. Where do you stand? By the end of this, your answer might feel a lot less certain. The idealist position is clear, and it speaks to our better angels. Treating people differently based on wealth is a fundamental moral failure. It suggests a person's inherent worth is conditional, tied directly to their bank balance. This philosophy champions a radical idea in a material world, that true respect is owed to everyone, simply because they are human. It values kindness, wisdom, and courage. These are qualities with no objective price. We tell ourselves stories about this. The humble janitor who sees the flaw in the company's logistics that the Ivy League consultants missed. The penniless musician whose work outlives the empires of the tycoons who ignored them. We celebrate these figures because they represent a world ordered by virtue, a reality we desperately want to believe in. Every time we default to judging by the logo on a handbag or the neighborhood on a driver's license, we betray that ideal. We flatten a complex, living person into a single, crude data point. We engage in a form of social sorting that is as lazy as it is cruel. The consequences of this mindset are devastating. On a personal level, it's a constant, low-grade humiliation for those without means. It's the experience of being invisible to a waiter, of having your expertise questioned in a field you've mastered, of being treated as less trustworthy, less intelligent, less real. On a societal level, it's poison. It breeds a quiet, simmering resentment that hollows out communities from the inside. It justifies staggering inequality by creating a narrative where wealth is equated with merit and poverty with personal failure. This creates a brutal feedback loop. A person without resources is denied the very respect that might grant them access to a better job, a fair loan, or a crucial connection. They are seen as a higher risk. Their potential is discounted before they even speak. This is how poverty becomes a fortress with social, not just economic walls. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy written by 1,000 daily dismissals. That's a powerful and decent vision for the world, but it runs into a brutal biological wall. What if our brains are wired to subvert our own best intentions? What if the calculus of wealth reflects a survival tool? This brings us to the coldest argument, the one many believe but few will say aloud. Treating wealth as a signal for competence is a rational if imperfect survival strategy. In a world of over 7 billion people and finite time, you cannot conduct a deep character analysis on every person you encounter. Our brains evolved to use heuristics, mental shortcuts. In a capitalist society, wealth is one of the most powerful shortcuts available. A significant net worth, particularly when earned, is a concentrated signal. It often implies a history of positive traits, discipline, foresight, risk management, and the ability to create value that others were willing to pay for. It suggests a track record of making more good decisions than bad ones. Think of it from a purely strategic perspective. A venture capitalist listens more intently to the founder with a previous $100 million exit. Why? Because that founder has already navigated the gauntlet and won. A bank is more willing to lend to a person with a strong financial history. The calculation is about data and risk. Someone with resources has more agency. Their decisions have a wider blast radius. They are a force multiplier. They can fund a project, hire a team, or crush a competitor. Their favor can make a career. Their opposition can end. One paying more attention to them is a simple, logical recognition of their leverage. The world runs on this calculus. Doors that are locked to others swing open. Emails that would be deleted get answered in minutes. The benefit of the doubt is granted automatically. The system prioritizes efficiency over fairness, using wealth as a coarse but effective filter for people who have demonstrated they can make things happen. It's a pragmatic sorting mechanism for a world that has too much noise and too little time. That logic sounds airtight, a brutally efficient, impartial system. But the machine has a critical bug, a ghost in its code. The signal it relies on is incredibly noisy and easily corrupted. What happens when the wealth was never earned at all? This is where the rational argument begins to fracture. Its entire premise rests on wealth being a reliable signal of past competence. But what about inherited wealth? Here, the calculus breaks down completely. The heir to a fortune has demonstrated fortune at birth. Yet the system of respect often treats them with the same deference, granting them the same access and assumption of competence. The signal is being received, but the message it carries is an echo of someone else's achievements. It's static. This reveals the world of status symbols for what it truly is: the six-figure watch, the hypercar, the penthouse apartment. These are conscious attempts to broadcast the signal of wealth, often to compensate for a lack of the underlying substance. They are a performance of success staged for an audience of strangers. We see this performance and must decide if we believe it. Is this person a creator of value or merely a consumer of luxury? Are we looking at a track record or just a really good costume? This purely financial signaling has to compete with other less tangible currencies. There's social capital, your network of relationships and obligations. There's cultural capital, your education, taste, and insider knowledge. A revered scientist might live on a modest salary, but command immense respect and influence within global institutions. A grassroots organizer might have no savings but be able to rally a city with their reputation for integrity. Their power is undeniable, existing outside of any bank statement. The question of which capital, economic, social, or cultural, gets the most respect changes depending on whether you're at a hedge fund, an art gallery, or a community hall. This gets even more complicated when we consider the invisible rich, the people with immense net worth who deliberately avoid all status symbols. They drive a 10-year-old car and wear an ordinary watch. They have weaponized modesty. In doing so, they create a different kind of filter. They repel the people who are only hunting for the flashy signals of wealth and instead attract those who are discerning enough to recognize true influence without the theatrical props. They are playing a different, more subtle status game, one where the ultimate flex is to need no flex at all. So the signal is flawed, it can be faked, and it competes with other currencies. But maybe the entire framework of assessment is wrong. Perhaps this reflects a much more primitive game, the simple animal instinct to get closer to power. Let's try a different lens. Stop thinking of respect as a feeling of admiration. Start thinking of it as the strategic allocation of your most finite resource: attention. We give our attention to people who control the flow of other resources. A wealthy person is a gravitational center, a hub in the network where capital, jobs, information, and opportunities concentrate. Their orbit is dense with possibility. Imagine a networking event. Everyone is talking, but all eyes keep flicking to the corner where the keynote speaker, a famous billionaire, is standing. When people finally get a moment with them, is their posture one of peer-to-peer admiration, or is it one of supplication? They are trying to position themselves in the slipstream of power. They want an investment for their startup. They want a job at the billionaire's company. They want an introduction to someone else in that orbit. It's pure, unadulterated strategy. Respect is the social lubricant for the transaction. This explains the paradox of why a person's ideas can be dismissed as naive when they're a junior analyst but hailed as visionary when they become CEO, even if the ideas themselves have not changed. The person is the same. Their core intellect is the same. Their position within the resource network has transformed. They now control budgets and headcount. Their words have weight because they are backed by capital. Respect, in this view, is just a polite word for access. It's a social currency we spend, often unconsciously, to acquire economic currency. We offer deference to open a door. We offer praise to stay in the room. This paints a cynical, but undeniably coherent, picture of human society. A cold, strategic game of maximizing self-interest. And yet, this model fails to explain one crucial piece of data: the feeling. Why does being on the wrong side of this calculus feel so intensely personal? Why does it feel like a moral injury? Here we arrive at the central conflict, the battle being fought inside your own skull every single day. Your modern, civilized mind, the one that reads books and believes in justice, cherishes a beautiful and fragile idea: universal human dignity. The principle that every person has inherent equal worth, regardless of their station. It's the moral bedrock of our laws, our ethics, and our highest aspirations. It's the voice that says, everyone deserves a fair shot. But a deeper, older part of your brain is running entirely different software. It's the ancient primate operating system, honed over millions of years for one purpose: survival within a competitive social hierarchy. This part subconsciously assesses status, power, and resource control. It's trying to figure out who is dominant, who is subordinate, who to align with, and who to avoid. This system cares about advantage. It's trying to keep you safe and improve your standing. This is the source of the profound dissonance we all feel. Our mouths say we value character, but our posture automatically straightens when the CEO walks into the room. Our eyes instinctively flicker to the expensive watch on a stranger's wrist. Our tone of voice softens when speaking to a wealthy client, but hardens when dealing with a service worker. We see this subtle shift in our own behavior, and we feel a flash of shame. It feels like hypocrisy because it is. We are caught in a constant tug-of-war between the world we believe should exist and the world our lizard brain is still trying to survive in. The pain we feel is the shame of recognizing that our own internal calculus is often just as cold and strategic as the one we resent in others. We are all complicit in the system we claim to despise. So, we are left with an impossible, tangled contradiction. On one hand, judging people by their net worth is a corrosive social acid. It dissolves the bonds of shared humanity, creates a rigid class system, denies opportunity, and reduces living, breathing people to a number on a spreadsheet. It punishes bad luck and rewards accidents of birth, making a mockery of the idea of a meritocracy. A world run entirely by this logic is a cold and brutal place. On the other hand, wealth is a real-world signal of agency, influence, and often a demonstrated ability to navigate complex systems. To ignore that signal entirely is to be strategically blind, perhaps dangerously naive, in a world where resources and power dictate outcomes. A world that pretends this is untrue is a world built on fantasy. This is an abstract debate about society. Look inward. Think about the last time you were in a meeting, a party, a restaurant, and you could immediately sense who held the power. Who did you listen to more closely? Whose opinions did you weigh more heavily? Whose jokes did you laugh at, maybe a little too loud? Who did you make a point to speak with, and who did you unconsciously ignore? Be brutally honest with yourself. Your memory holds the data. So here is the question. Where do you draw the line between a rational assessment of someone's influence and a moral failure to see their humanity? And when you are the one doing the sizing up, how much does their bank account really weigh on your scale?